Welcome back to this final hour with Travis. I am your guest host, the prophet of fiction, back again. A consecutive week. And that music was The Firebird by Igor Stravinsky. The man was very popular during his time, toured the world before the rock and roll world got rolling. He was the rock and roll man of symphonic music, caused riots. I think it was in Paris after the debut of Spring Sacrifice. Yeah, he liked to push the envelope, get symphonic music, orchestral music to trigger adrenaline rushes, fear. Yeah, I was once slightly addicted to that music. No longer. I like to keep my mind clear and operating without fear and without rushing. And that's not what most music is meant to do. But I digress. I want to focus today on books and the Jew or Jesuit question that plagues so many of us. Books plague us too, really. Regarding the Jew or Jesuit question, well, really the Jew conspiracy is much stronger, much more popular. How long ago is it now? A month and a half ago, I tackled a terrible debate between Johnny Cerrucci, who argues for a Jesuit global conspiracy masterclass, and Dustin Nemos, who argues for the Jewish masterclass conspiracy ruling the world. Well, I dismiss both. I dismiss both positions. I prefer to argue that we are ruled by the old Western European aristocracy. And, you only have to visit almost any of the big cities on this planet, and you can find their Tartarian, old world, colonial buildings, usually in the downtown parts of our cities. Many of those buildings were destroyed during the early 20th century, late 19th century. So their presence was enormous. They numbered in the millions 200 years ago already. And, there's the physical evidence. Those buildings were not built by Jews, and Jesuits might have a better claim on it, but they're just an arm of the Catholic Church. They're not the Western European aristocracy that numbered in the millions. And I understand this is not a theory that is common among investigators, but there it is. And how do you argue against physical evidence? But I'll provide more support for this argument. I'm also quite far out in left field insofar as I dismiss virtually all books. I consider them all products of the ruling class, all intended to lead us astray, even to mock us, keep us stupid, and so on. And we still live with this cult of the books, we could call it. Seems like anyone who can read a few books nowadays, or a lot of books, garners a lot of respect. Books, there's an aura around books. And, of course, I was once spellbound by books as well, but no longer. And I see through our books. I see the patterns. Now, back to the Jewish conspiracy narrative. Some like to say that, some like to quote the Bible as evidence that the Jews feel privileged, chosen is the word, chosen to rule. And there are passages in the Bible that suggest that. But the general narrative of the Old Testament does not support it. They constantly disappoint God. They are constantly suffering. And the Old Testament doesn't really end so happily. In the Jewish version, I think, ends with Chronicles. Well, they have to be saved by a foreign king, Cyrus, named after the star, perhaps, Sirius, the dog star. But I'm going to stick to today mostly to Genesis. And why not begin with, these will be top of my head notes. Later I will do some reading from a book I've written on the Bible. But let me try to see if I can work just from the top of my head. Let's start with Genesis and the Garden of Eden. Interesting little story. The first humans coming from a garden with trees and fruit. So, sounds like the life of the native peoples. Not even hunting yet, for those who would argue that humans started with hunting and gathering. No, not according to the Bible. No hunter mentioned, I think, until Nimrod, chapter maybe 7 or 8, not sure. So, what do we do with that? This is before cooking. No fire yet, no grains, no meat, just fruit in a garden. Well, that's what I believe the first humans did. They relied on raw fruit. I've been forced by health issues to mostly adopt a fruitarian diet. Works very well for me. And I think it's, assuming your fruit are organic and fresh, this is a good health prescription. We don't need anything complicated. We don't need complicated protocols. Solution is quite simple. Go back to the ultra basic raw food. If you can't eat it raw, don't eat it. Well, what comes after Garden of Eden? We have Cain and Abel, sons of Adam. Adam was expelled from the garden into the fields to toil in the fields. Sounds like agriculture. Bang, right out of nowhere. No transition, just straight into agriculture. And his sons produced agricultural products. Cain produced grain. Well, that's hinted at by his name, Cain. Cain is like stem, stick. And Abel produced livestock. I believe it was a lamb. Yeah, the text just skips over hunting and goes straight to agriculture. Now, God asks them to offer him a gift. And, well, they offer what they have. And somehow, God is not pleased with the grains of Cain, the herbs. Not sure what word they used. Depends on the translation, probably. But commonly translated as grains-ish. Why wasn't that good enough? Well, grains and bread is food for the poor, and God wants meat. No other reason is given for God's disappointment with Cain. There's no reason at all, really. But I can infer. God wanted meat. Who doesn't? It's probably the better food choice, if you have no other choice. But there's more to the story than that. The two names, Cain and Abel, if we connect them and merge them into one word, we have a word or a name that sounds a lot like cannibal. Cannibal. And that's not a coincidence. The cannibal theme runs throughout the Bible in the subtext where no one wants to find it. And this is just one example. Human sacrifice theme will, of course, rear its head when Abraham is asked to sacrifice his son, which he prepares to do on an altar with firewood. Well, this is not a simple kill and abandon. No, this is going to involve cooking. Moreover, the names Cain and Abel are very close. Actually, one is actually a name of Western European aristocracy. I was surprised to discover that myself a couple of years ago when I knew someone whose last name was Abel. I had to do some research, and yes, this has aristocratic roots. And Cain, if it's spelled K-A-H-N, I believe is the German spelling, Kahn, is also a name with aristocratic history. And so there is some early evidence that the authors of the Bible were aristocrats and cannibals. Not a popular theory, but try to argue against it, try to go deeper. What else should I offer from the top of my head? Amalek. I think Amalek is first mentioned in Genesis 14. Amalek is often identified by proponents of the Jewish conspiracy masterclass narratives as code for the white race. And the white race is supposed to be the enemy of the Jewish race. Although, curiously, Amalek is never mentioned by the Jewish prophets, never mentioned in the New Testament, never mentioned really beyond the time of David, King David, I believe, maybe Solomon. Still, that's 3,000 years ago. What happened to Amalek? Well, that's if you buy the Bible's chronology. Amalek is a curious word. Could it be an anagram? A near anagram for camel? Could it be a near anagram for alchemy? Who knows what games these authors played with words. Amalek is first mentioned, as I mentioned, in Genesis 14. That chapter is devoted to Abram's victory over an alliance that had, what's the right word here, abducted, taken prisoner, his cousin Lot, and many other people associated with Lot and his possessions. Perhaps that includes his land. And so Abram, who didn't have any military experience, seemed to have been busy just managing his personal affairs, but suddenly he has, how many was it? 318 young men born in his household. 318. He takes them to battle, to seize back those possessions and to free Lot. Well, 318 plus Abram makes 319. That reduces to the number 13, an occult number associated with Knights Templar. It's not sounding very Jewish, this book, is it? Well, after his victory, he returns and is met by a priest. Just appears out of nowhere. A priest named Melchizedek. And this Melchizedek comes with bread and wine. Has a little ritual ceremony. Sounds very Catholic, doesn't it? And after that, after the verse mentioning his wine and bread, Melchizedek has the gall to say, "You owe me 10% of what you took," which wasn't really Abram's either, but Abram agreed, 10%. That's a hefty tax. That's a hefty gift offering to God's priest. Well, 10% turns out to be the same number given in historical accounts of taxation in the Middle Ages, which was supposedly facilitated by the Catholic Church in Europe. Coincidence? Maybe not. Moving right along, we can go to Jacob's story. Oh, why not? Why not go to Isaac? Isaac first. The poor boy who was, as a child, nearly sacrificed by his father as a sign of his faith. And somehow we respect that. Yes, a man willing to sacrifice his son to prove his faith. Well, it's madness, of course. We should recognize it as nothing less than madness. No one should be willing to sacrifice a child for anything. Well, not unless if you're a adrenochrome-addicted cannibal who needs child sacrifices. That is a topic I specialize in, written and delivered some lectures on the subject on my YouTube channel, Prophet of Fiction. In any case, let's move on to Jacob. He is special. Why is he special? He's supposed to be the first Jew, the father of the Jewish race. He does have a strange name, a name very common in Western Europe. Jacob, the Jacobites. How curious is that? And what's my next note before the break? It slipped my mind. Oh, yes. Yes. It comes back. Jacob fell in love with a woman, Rebecca, the sister of Laban, a landowner, somewhere in the Holy Land. Laban has an interesting name. It can be reorganized as if it were an anagram. Laban as an Alban, Alba, Albion. These words are associated with the word white in other languages. Albania, albino. Laban. Was he a white man? Was Isaac working for a white man for 7 years so that he could have the privilege of marrying Rebecca? Rebecca, an interesting name too. Reminds me of Reebok, the gray Reebok. Reebok is a gazelle-like animal. You don't say the authors dehumanized women, and of course men too, but in this case, a woman. The gray Reebok lived in South Africa. That seems a bit far. Did the authors, presumably Hebrew authors, travel to South Africa? Of course not. The book was not written by Jews. And it was not written thousands of years ago. I place it earlier than, let's say, the late 18th century. Rebecca also had a ring through her nose, again, suggesting she is livestock, at least a slave, but no, mostly livestock. I believe horses and oxen had rings punched through their noses to help control them. Well, this family seems interested in animals and livestock. Jacob's father, was it his father? No, Jacob himself was a breeder of goats while working for Laban. He bred goats of different colors. Well, there's the farming theme, livestock theme. Jesus, the lamb. Yes, God still liked livestock over bread. We got the bread. He got the meat. So, let's see. What else comes to mind? I think after the break I will switch to some reading. There is also the story of King, how do I pronounce that name? Nebuchadnezzar, thank you. Yeah. And didn't he have a dream in which he turned into in which he was eating grass, like he became a cow or some other ruminant livestock? What does that mean? Well, as I've argued in my lectures and in my work, the word king is actually derived from the word kine, which is an Old English word meaning cattle, cow. All kings before the modern age were actually sacrificial humans, no different than, well, we are told as much by the story of Jesus, the King of the Jews, another sacrificial king. So, I hope I get some callers today, this evening. We'll see you at the other side of the break.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
I'm so excited to have you as part of the Wild Pastures family, and we look forward to bringing you the pasture-raised meats that you and your family will love. Now, we started Wild Pastures because so many of my clients would tell me they just couldn't find high-quality pasture-raised meats, and even when they did, it was so expensive that they couldn't afford to eat it regularly. Now, I'm not talking about the bottom-of-the-barrel healthy meats that have claims like natural or free-range or even cage-free, terms that were actually created by the industrial food industry to make us feel all warm and fuzzy about buying their low-quality products. I'm talking about truly nourishing pasture-raised meats, the kind that you'll never really find in a grocery store. Our farmers are doing things beyond organic. Our beef is 100% grass-fed and grass-finished and raised on pastures free from chemicals and other pesticides. Our chickens are 100% pasture-raised, where they get their natural diet of grass and forage and insects. We will never settle for free range, which is actually one of the most deceptive terms in the chicken industry. In fact, less than 0.1% of the chicken consumed in the United States is truly pasture-raised in the way that ours is. And our pork is 100% pasture-raised as well. So if you care about where your food comes from, then you have definitely made it to the right place. As a Wild Pastures member, you'll be supporting the most highly principled farmers in America and getting the most nutrient-dense, nourishing, and sustainable meats in the world. I'm confident you'll love being part of our mission at Wild Pastures, and you will really love the delicious, nourishing meats that we're going to deliver straight to your door.
Visit republicbroadcasting.org and click the Wild Pastures banner ad. Secure a shipment today. Beef, poultry, and pork, raised the way nature intended.
Tejibo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit drinksupertea.com. The first word is drink, spelled D-R-I-N-K, then the word super, then the word tea. The complete website is drinksupertea.com, or call us at 818-965-9113, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-965-9113. drinksupertea.com.
People often write to tell us what has happened for them since starting Extendivite. Allow me to read a few. In 1 month, my blood pressure dropped significantly. I no longer get chest pain after exercise. It's amazing, and I ordered my second bottle. The reviews are spot on. My target is to get off BP meds, and if it keeps going like this, I see a light at the end of the tunnel. So far, a great product is what it claims to be. Great product. A few days in, and I could feel a difference for certain. Not checking medical stats yet. I know this is really working by how I feel. We'll continue to take this product. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit extendivite.com. That's extendovite.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
As an individual in good physical shape, I'm thankful to not have to contend with pain often. But when I do, there's only one solution I choose for instant pain relief and rapid healing. That solution is Pain Liberator, Miracle Muscle Pain Reliever. Pain Liberator comes in a convenient spray bottle filled with a blend of DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide, aspirin, and magnesium delivered in a colloidal silver water blend. DMSO is most well known in farming, such as for horses with arthritis, but it's commonplace in the sports training world too. Beyond that, anything you combine with the DMSO is taken into the skin with 90+% efficiency, meaning the aspirin goes straight into your pain point, deep into the tissues, again for maximum instant pain relief. Add into the equation the quite miraculous benefits, healing potentials of aspirin and magnesium, and there truly is nothing like Pain Liberator. Just head on over to libertyunderattack.com/pain to place your order today. Again, libertyunderattack.com/pain. Act now, and no relief is on the way.
Hello, all. Welcome back to the second quarter of this World Cup final. I'm going to read a little from my a book I spent 20 years writing, and it has gone through some changes, as I'm not your typical professor, academic scholar. So I was always open to new information, new insights, and had to revise and revise until not long ago. So labor of love. This is I'll read a little chapter from the Criminal Bible, and this chapter is called The Illiterate Jews, which is a fun bit to chew on for those who believe the Jews wrote the Old Testament at least, and, well, it's just a fun piece for me. Let me begin. If history is written by the victors, we can infer that Jews did not write the Bible. After all, at least according to the Bible, Jews were defeated by nearly every empire, the Roman Empire included. And by the way, I don't believe the Roman Empire ever existed. But that's in another book. Ironically, the 4 books that describe the greatest Jewish victory, the books of Maccabees, are not in the Jewish version of the Bible. Oh, how disappointing for the Jews. Yes, the authors were quite the jokers. Strangely, the Old Testament does not flatter Jews. Instead, it portrays them as brutal barbarians and accuses them of committing idolatry constantly. For example, in Genesis 34, Jacob's sons massacre the men of Shechem because they were uncircumcised, and one of them married a Jewish girl named Dinah. I hope that's the right pronunciation, but it should be fair. The spelling is exactly the same as a name that's common in Ireland. Maybe it's pronounced Dina. In any case, it sounds a lot like dinner time. Yeah, terrible joke. But, well, no worse than killing lots of people because they married one of your girls. They married a foreigner because he married one of their women. And the Bible ends with millions of Jews being rescued by a foreign king. And the Jewish Bible does. Now, why would Jews write a book that discredits themselves? Perhaps they didn't write the Bible. In support of the belief that Jews wrote the Bible, we could highlight the fact that it permits slavery of any ethnic group except Jews. And it authorizes Jews to charge interest to non-Jews, and it claims that Jews are God's chosen people. But the Bible never claims that Jews ever possessed slaves or loaned money to Gentiles. And God often punished Jews, arguably much more than he rewarded them. Actually, the Bible portrays Jews as God's great disappointment. Consequently, God punished his chosen Jews with exiles, wars, and the destruction of their most sacred temple. Abraham is the grandfather of Jacob, a.k.a. Israel, first Jew. But Jacob's life was miserable. It is full of work, slavery, really. He worked 14 years to earn what? 2 women, 2 wives. It's not a very nice book for women, is it? And it is the Old Testament history ends with the return of the Jews to Jerusalem, which could be a happy event, but it isn't described as one, and how could it be? The Jews were absent from Jerusalem for at least 40 years. I doubt Jerusalem remained vacant and clean during that time. Another minor problem with the theory that Jews wrote any part of the Bible is that the Bible portrays Jews as illiterate people. For example, the prophet Ezekiel did not write or read, but he ate. He ate an entire page. That's supposed to be funny. Consumerism with books. The baby Moses was wrapped in papyrus, which is an Egyptian form of paper, but he never wrote on paper. Granted, the Bible claims that Moses wrote this law, Deuteronomy 31:9, but that's only one law. And this law is not a law, but a prophecy that Jews will conquer Sihon and Og, which they didn't conquer. So if Moses wrote anything, he wrote what was wrong. No one knows where Sihon and Og are. Thus, the Bible's authors wrote to undermine the faith of believers, or maybe just they wrote jokes. Jokes that made them laugh and that go unnoticed by the unwary. The names Sihon, Sihon, and Og are products of occult word games. Sihon is a mutant form of Zion, which is a deviation of zon, the Dutch word for sun, while Og, O-G, is close to the Dutch word for eye, which is double O-G. In Masonic Illuminati symbology, the sun is an eye. So Sihon and Og mean the same thing. Needless to say, neither sun nor the eye were conquered by Jews. In the book of Joshua, we find another joke. Afterward, I quote, afterward Joshua read all the words of the law, the blessings and the curses, just as it is written in the book of the law. Well, this is a book with many laws, I assume, like a law book. What kind of law book contains the blessings and curses? This isn't illogical. Shouldn't a law book have definitions of crimes and descriptions of punishments? If literate Jews wrote the Bible, they weren't very logical. The king of Aram wrote a letter to the Jew king of Israel. But the Jew did not reply with a letter. Why not? Was he illiterate? This is in the second book of Kings, chapter 5. The Jew king Hezekiah received a letter from the Assyrian king Sennacherib. But Hezekiah did not write a reply. Hezekiah probably. Why did the Jewish Hezekiah not reply? Was he illiterate? The prophet Isaiah sent a message to Hezekiah, but it was a spoken message. Was Isaiah also illiterate? An entire book, quite a long book of prophecies, is credited to him. But did he write it? Well, we should know better than to imagine that ancient authors put real names on their books. The Jew king Josiah received a copy of the book of the law from his high priest Hilkiah, whose name is not Jewish. It was derived from the Germanic name Helgi, Hilkiah, Helgi, which is a good word for a priest, for it means holy. So I'm not making this up. Holy and blessed. But it was also derived from the Turkish name Ilkin. Hilkiah, Ilkin, maybe. And the Turkish word ilki, which means first, which is also a good word for a priest, because as the high priest, Hilkiah should be the first among priests. Do these name games hint that the Bible is not of Jewish origin? Hilkiah found the book of the law in his temple, magically, just found it, just like Just like, who was it? I noticed today someone informed me or reminded me that a gentleman, an American, magically discovered Machu Picchu, and Europeans magically discovered, white people magically discovered the dinosaur bones that somehow were overlooked by native peoples for thousands of years. They discovered all the papyrus scrolls and old manuscripts in caves and wherever. The cave paintings, supposedly prehistoric works, also discovered magically by white men. Bones of the first hominids, humans, also. Same story, over and over. Mostly 1800s. Some before, some a little later. And here we have the same story in the Bible. The priest Hilkiah finds the book of the law in his temple while it was being renovated or repaired by carpenters, builders, and masons. That word, masons, is used in the Bible. What kind of masons? Freemasons, perhaps? The Jew king Hezekiah did not read the book of the law. Instead, the royal secretary, Shaphan, read it to him. That happens in the second book of Kings, chapter 22. And in most translations, Shaphan is the court scribe. So Shaphan is literate, and I dare say his name is tantalizingly close to Shaphan. My suspicions were confirmed by the fact that Shaphan's sons do not have Jewish names. They are Ahikam, a little bit Arabic maybe, Elasa, Gemariah, and Jezaniah. In fact, Ahikam is not even a name. It only exists in the Bible. Ahikam is the father of Gedaliah, whose name contains the name of a flower first identified by Europeans, the dahlia. Gedalia. First identified by Europeans in 1525 in Mexico, my present country. Another name, Elisa, is a hybrid word formed from the Dutch word lezen, Elisa, lezen, which has a silent and leza, and means to read, which is what Shaphan did. And second, Elysium, which is the Greek equivalent of heaven, which is where Satan wages war. And so I don't want to go into too much of this etymology, name games. I think you get the point. More is in the book. Later, King Hezekiah oversaw a celebration consisting of burnt offerings. What was burnt? Not too much. Only 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep and goats. Second book of Chronicles 30. This means that Hezekiah created hell on earth, really, to burn 11,000 animals to God. That means Hezekiah and his cooks are a lot like Satan, the Lord of Fire, the Lord of the Freemasons, maybe, for whom the number 11 is important. 11,000 animals. And the 5 numbers in the number 11,000, that would be 1 plus 1, and treat the zeros as tens, produce the number 32. That has some meaning for the Freemasons. Uncoincidentally, the book and chapter numbers in 2 Chronicles 30 also add to 32. They love their number games. In the book of Ezra, two non-Jews and their non-Jew associates write letters. The non-Jews. The letter that, I quote, the letter that Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar, Bozenai, and their associates, the officials of Trans-Euphrates, sent to King Darius. That's verse 5, comma 6. Later, Ezra reads from the book of the law, verse 18. Was Ezra a Jew? I don't know, but one thing is certain. Since the Renaissance, the name Ezra has been used in England by Christians. I don't think it's a very Jewish name. The book of Esther tells a funny story. King Xerxes couldn't sleep, so he asked someone to write and read the book of Chronicles, the record of his reign. Well, that's not the book of Chronicles that's in the Bible. Well, why would he ask someone to read a story to him because he can't sleep? It's a joke, of course. Now, holy writings, historical writings are like lullabies to help a king sleep. Well, it's instructive. Unskilled readers are sleep reading through the Bible. I guess it might be a joke about that. Not many people can read the Bible. It's a little dense, let's say, and doesn't hold the storyline for very long. Too many characters, too many generations. In any case, it can put people to sleep. And it really does, figuratively and maybe literally, but certainly spiritually. Well, what do we do with this name, Xerxes, Xerxes? Well, since I wrote that, I've become aware that the double X is another code. And not only is it a Roman numeral for meaning 20, twin, the twin number, 20, but it represents the concept of the double-crossing people. Double X. We've got a lot of names around here in Mexico with double X's. A convenience store. OXXO with double X. People use those stores to buy their toxic foods and beverages. They are being double-crossed. In any case, Xerxes with the double X is a corruption of Serge, S-E-R-G-E, a Western name, I think common in Slavic countries, and the Latin version is Sergio, Serge, a Western name, which means also means a woolen cloth. And most people don't know that woolen clothes and blankets were dyed with poisons in the past. Well, that's another chapter. Dyed, the word dyed, should be warning to us all. Isaiah agreed about the majority of his readers. I quote, "For you, this whole vision is nothing but words sealed in a scroll. And if you give the scroll to someone who can read and say, 'Read this, please,' they will answer, 'I can't. It is sealed.'" I think Isaiah spoke figuratively. The Bible is sealed because it is written in code, not because a wax seal prevents us from opening it. According to Isaiah, Maybe that's a funny name, too. I say, yeah. In other words, I say yes, the yes man. In chapter 29, verse 27, that's an interesting number, too. It can be reduced to 11, but I'm not going to play too many number games right now. Jeremiah was born in Anathoth. Well, the name Isaiah is popular in English-speaking nations, but not because English speakers love to name their children after the Bible's characters. If we had that habit, we might expect more English speakers to be named Lazarus and Methuselah. The former was resurrected, and the latter was the longest-lived man in the Bible. Why wouldn't you choose those names for your children? But no, Isaiah instead. And as I believe, this is originally a European name, not Jewish. I don't know any Jews named Isaiah. The name Anathoth, Jeremiah's birthplace. It means it's a compound word that means Thoth again, or Thoth returns. Thoth is the Egyptian god of writing. More on that on the other side. Well, let's have a break.
As I crawl a cracked and broken town, if we make it, we can all sit back and laugh. But I fear tomorrow I'll be crying. Yes, I fear tomorrow I'll be crying. Yes, I fear tomorrow I'll be crying.
Hi, Tom Bolton for Ease Off. I know so many of you are finding our Easy 4 carcass drop and lift an essential tool for your meat processing operation, but today I want to spotlight 4 of our new products. First, our right height hog cradles with steel or aluminum frames. Our customers love this back-saving innovation that enhances sanitation and speeds production. Next, our beef cradles with stainless steel or aluminum frames eliminate rust and corrosion. We hope you'll compare our quality and prices for this essential part of your processing line. Our cradles are especially effective when used with our power skinner. And finally, our hook tumbler will keep your hooks clean and polished. EaseOff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too.
Ease Off, LLC, 417-932-6419.